You've been ignoring the 3D reality, but the old story isn't filtering out yet. You're still not experiencing the new story as you want to. This video is going to help you guys fix that, recognize what you can adjust or add onto your daily routine with manifesting, and how to get past this issue. Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We're talking about the new story, how to bring it into your physical reality right now, bring it into your mind, start to accept it more as fact and your new reality. And if you want to hear more about this and all my different points of how to utilize your affirmations to the best of your ability, what the best mindset is to have in, in terms of developing this new story, letting go of the old, just throwing it in the trash, you're done with that now. We're going to delve into all of this in really simple terms. I think people tend to find my content really easy to understand, so I think you guys will enjoy this video. If you're new here, welcome. Please do thumbs up, subscribe if you enjoy, maybe turn on that notification bell so you're first to know about all my new content. You can also click any of the links in the description box, the buttons below, look at anything on screen, pause the video if you're curious about how to get extra one-to-one support, because that is the only way to get all your questions answered, your personalized manifestation advice. So do take a look if that's something you want to do. And now let's get started. The conscious mind will push back when there isn't that mental alignment with the new story. So what that looks like is wavering, spiraling, getting triggered, and very mentally reactive. So I'm not just saying having a bad day emotionally or missing your SP, for example, or feeling, stressed about trying to achieve these goals. I mean specifically like thoughts that push back, the mental state, mentally reactive, no mental alignment, really meaning that you're not aligning with your thoughts the way you think, anything going on visually in your mind to do with the new version. So the conscious mind will push you through that and put you through, sorry, that hair was annoying me, put you through this repetitive cycle of those thoughts tied to the old story, because you're, like I said, you're affirming, you're persisting, you're saying, I'm being consistent with my affirmations, I'm doing all these things, but then chances are your thoughts aren't aligning, there's not that mental alignment. So the emotional state is kind of separate, it doesn't really impact your manifestation, but it's the mental alignment. Are the thoughts you're thinking throughout the day, the conversations you're having, the thoughts and decisions that you're creating in your mind that tie into your manifestation, does it actually align with having that end result, or are you opposing it? Are you complaining? Are you getting triggered easily? And then also, how do you handle that? Because you don't have to stop yourself having these natural automated reactions right now. Eventually they will fade away, but for right now, it's how are you actually handling them? So affirming correctly, and I have videos that delve into affirmations and using affirmations specifically. So please watch that if you want more advice just on that. But also I have shorts, so you don't have to sit through a whole video if you really don't want to. But no, so you're affirming correctly, you're being consistent, and that's perfect. That is how you use affirmations. The repetition does break it down over time, but the problem is when there is an old story present, when there are opposing thoughts, it's more of a struggle. It's going to take longer. It's a bit more of a harder experience to get out of. So if you're affirming correctly, but then you're not actually persisting, which again, like I said, fully encompasses the mental alignment. Does your mental state, the focus, your thoughts, the visuals, the daydreams, the arguments maybe that you make up in your mind, does all of that actually feed into the end result that you're focusing on? Because otherwise it's this push and pull effect where you're doing your affirmations, you're focusing on what you want, but then you're actually also opposing it. So if you're affirming correctly, but not also persisting, that equates to incorrect. Hopefully this next point I can explain to you guys as best as possible. I have a tendency to ramble, so let's keep it concise, Alexa. But your mindset shift has its own bridge of events. That's kind of how I like to say it. Maybe other people have already said this before, but the way your own mind conforms, because we all know it starts internally, it's an internal conforming process, has its own bridge of events. So it could be the conforming and manifestation starts to come together, and it leads you to maybe watch a TV show, be recommended a YouTube video, see an advert out on the street, have a conversation with a friend, and it inspires you, it triggers something in you. And I don't just mean in terms of action, in terms of having realizations, emotional growth, maturity, all these things to do with your mental state and mentally being aligned with the end result as if it's here now, being mentally ready, because you can't, be insecure, constantly triggered, constantly anxious, really staying in a victim state, anything negative that could oppose your manifestation, that realistically you cannot hold on to that. It cannot stay in your mind. It has to filter itself out in order for you to get your end result. So that's the bridge of events that happens internally. You learn to let go of things, you create and develop realizations about yourself, your own mindset. That is the mindset shift that happens, but you need to be persistent. You need to be intentional and aware. And that's not 100%, it's not perfect. It's just to the best of your ability, where and when you can. Being self-aware, that's a huge trait. That's something I've learned a lot about as well recently, and the importance of it, really understanding where my own self-awareness has helped me develop as a coach, in my career, but just personally as a person with my character and overcoming negative habits and things. So it's a huge part of your mindset shift, that internal conforming, the way your own beliefs about yourself and the way you think are also going to develop and change. Leading into that topic even more, you don't need a belief. The belief comes on its own, comes late. Well, not on its own, it's connected obviously, but it develops in its own way. You don't need to believe it now. Obviously, that would be the manifestation complete. Done. You've accomplished it. If you believe it, it has to show up in your reality immediately. You can't have a belief and strongly, genuinely have no opposition to it and your 3D not reflect that. So you basically just very easily manifest that. So don't worry so much about how believable it is right now. What you need is repetition and resonance. It needs to resonate in your mind. It needs to literally filter into your conscious mind as well, so that those opposing thoughts and the wavering can kind of minimize as well. But the repetition is always a key element. And remember that your mind definitely still needs structure. So you don't have to follow a very strict routine, but you need to have some kind of structure where I'm applying my mental diet. I'm filtering out the old story. I'm not going to hold on to it in this way. The way I think to myself, the thoughts I have, the way I speak to myself all day, every day, right? Because you're always with yourself, as weird as that is actually to realize, you're never separate from yourself. You'll always be present. Your mind will always be active. So your mind needs some structure. So you need to have that self-awareness. That's going to help a lot. So you know where to apply that structure. Maybe what's the missing key here? When you find yourself fighting with the 3D reality instead of replacing it, you'll do things like start to panic, overanalyze, get really triggered and anxious. Maybe your emotions become heightened and you get into a bad emotional mental state because of something you see externally. When you start fighting and trying to push back on that, instead of just replacing it, instead of applying a replacement with the new story, literally your mental diet, an affirmation, whatever it may be, replacing that negative instead of constantly trying to battle against what you're seeing in the 3D and, hopefully not going to a point of literally taking physical action just because of something that came up in your 3D reality. So it's about, instead of fighting it and trying to keep pushing back and applying so much significance to what you're seeing, saying, nope, I'm just going to replace it. So instead of this, whatever I might have seen, I don't care. I don't remember seeing that. Of course, I've thought of another example. It's like Mariah Carey with J-Lo. That's the attitude you want. If I can find a GIF or something, I actually want to insert it somewhere here. Hopefully I can find that. Where she says, J-Lo, I don't know her. I've never met her. I don't know her. And she says it so nonchalantly. It's like, wow, that was a dagger to J-Lo. But that's how you want to approach that old story. When the 3D reality comes in, don't fight it. Don't push against it. I don't know the old story. I don't know what's going on in the 3D. All I know is that I have my SP. I have my dream life. I have my dream job. Everything's perfect. Essentially, what that is going to do is help you get out of feeding the old assumptions. The old assumptions are on a diet now, a strict diet. I don't know if we're allowed to say this word, Ozempic. The old story does not exist. It's non-existent. It's not around anymore. And you don't want to create this negative loop of the old story just perpetuating itself in a cycle, because analyzing the 3D is just going to feed into that. How do you actually do that? Well, you say your affirmations as if they're literally fact, as if you're just repeating something to yourself. Think to yourself, or maybe say it out loud as well. If I were to say to you, what's your hair color? State that to yourself as a fact. See how your mind and maybe emotions and how silly it feels to say out loud to yourself. For me, I guess light brown. I have light brown hair. Like if I sat here trying to affirm and convince you guys, you would be like, girl, you need to get yourself checked. What is going on? And that's kind of how you handle your affirmations. Just say it like, well, duh, SP and I are together right now. So just go in with the mindset and like fun idea of saying everything factually, saying it as if it's literally true right now. This is literally going to help you speed up your manifestation because it's normalizing it to your mind. You're creating inner conversations the way you literally would think or speak otherwise. You're not trying to force or push this concept that you're saying, oh my gosh, this is so impossible. Like, SP and I are together, SP and I are together. Like, no, you're saying, well, I know that I'm going to see SP later because they're already my partner and like we're already together. It's literally a relationship that's gone on for ages. I don't know why I'm even repeating it to myself right now because everyone knows we're together. Like in that kind of idea, you don't have to do it as a full inner conversation, but that's an example. It conditions your mind to accept it, to think that way, to create new thought patterns where you might find yourself eventually starting to just say SP and I are together, you know, oh, I have this great relationship. You might find that you naturally do it in a more easy way. And it's just like you're telling yourself a normal thought. That's kind of the intention you want to try and incorporate, again, with your mental diet as well, wherever it's needed. But I think I'm going to leave that here. I think this was quite a fun video, slightly interesting new angle, I guess, to my advice. But I hope you guys found this useful. If you're new here, I would very much appreciate you guys joining as a subscriber. It's free, it's quick, and you will be able to stay up to date with all my content and let YouTube know that you actually enjoy my content. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.